نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أطيعوا الله والرسول فإن تولوا فإن الله لا يحب الكافرين قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من أطاعني دخل الجنة ومن عصاني فقد أبى. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear respected brothers and elders, we firstly thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us Iman. And through with Iman, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us the ability for being here on this precious day of Friday. As we all know, we are in the month of Rabi'ul Awwal, which is a very blessed and great month for us believers, as our role model and mentor was born in this month, our noble Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And all we have to do in this month is, and take it forward into our lives and carry it on for the rest of our lives, is follow the love, follow the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is to have love for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We have to dedicate ourselves to love Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and devote ourselves to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine in a marriage situation where a husband comes home every day and he shows profuse love to his wife. However, at the end of the day, she still turns a cold shoulder to him. What will we turn such a wife? However, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not like that. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam literally did the lasting fast. Such was, he went out of extent of his concern for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Surely there has come to you from your midst a messenger who feels it very hard on him if you face difficulty or hardship, who is very anxious for your welfare and for the believers. He is very kind and very merciful. So the least we can do as being part of the Ummah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is show him some love and devote ourselves into the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu, their love was outmatched for all, compared to everyone. Example, Sayyidina Ma'aqil bin Yasir radiallahu anhu. When he was sitting in a gathering between all the leaders, a morsel of food fell onto the floor. He picked up the morsel of food, he cleaned it and he ate it. All the leaders looked at him like, wow, what is he doing? And his right hand man said, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep you our good leader? All of these leaders are looking at you, staring at you, because you picked up food from the floor, yet you have so much food which is sufficient for you in your plate. He said, I will never abandon the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So from this story, my dear brothers, we learn that the Sahaba radiallahu anhu put the sunnah above everything else. Even the leaders that were around him, without hesitation, he had no choice, he just picked up the food. But why? Because he had the love of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his heart. So how can we bring this love into our lives? How can we bring the sunnah into our lives? It comes in hadith that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, فَوَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَا يُؤْمِنُ أَحَدُكُمْ حَتَّى أَكُونَ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِنْ وَلَدِهِ وَوَلَدِهِ. Him in whose hands is my life, none of you will have complete faith, complete iman, until he loves me more than he loves his father and he loves his children. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying, for you to get complete iman, you have to love him over your parents and you have to love him over your own children. It's so simple, my dear brothers. How can we bring this love into our heart? A simple technique which is yet effective is by following the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I know, although at sometimes in our lives it's very hard and difficult to follow some of the sunnahs of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but if we try and do it, there are plenty rewards, great blessings from it. It comes in hadith, من تمسك بسنتي إن فاسد أمتي فله أجر 100 شهيدا. The one who holds firm onto the sunnah when my ummah is degenerating will receive the reward of 100 martyrs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it so that when a person revives a sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he will get the reward of 100 martyrs. And generally, when something becomes exclusive and rare, it fetches an exorbitant price. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is paying the price, the reward of 100 martyrs, just for holding on to the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We can start off by looking at the things which we consider small. but is extremely beneficial and extremely rewarding. Example, a few acts. Before a person sleeps, he makes wudu. Then he goes into his bed and he dusts his bed off. He faces his right side, faces the Qibla, and he makes his dua. Inshallah, he will sleep like a baby. That whole night he will not go through any uneasy or uncomfortableness. Everything will go easy. Not only that, the next day that he wakes up, his day will go as planned. Everything will go good. Why? Just because he did this minor acts of sleeping, which is sunnah, the night before. In the past, the mere fact that something was sunnah was enough to motivate a person to practice upon it. There was no such thing as a small sunnah. Never. This is the reality. Since every sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is worth more than the 7 heavens and the 7th earth. However, some sunnahs cannot be missed, my dear brothers. Like the sunnah salahs before and after the fard salahs. For the person who reads all his sunnah salah in the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him a palace in Jannah. Why? You just have to read all your sunnah salahs before and after, and you get a palace in Jannah, my dear brothers. What we would do is, 5 minutes before Fajr Salah setting, we just running into the masjid performing our namaz, and we forget about our sunnah salahs. Where the sunnah salah before Fajr is so important that a person, through the virtue of performing it, he is protected throughout his whole day. And not only is he protected throughout his whole day, he is also granted so much blessings, because this 2 rakats of salah before Fajr Salah is more virtuous than the whole world and whatever it contains in it. My dear brothers, look at the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Such a small act which we would consider in our eyes, but rather in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is granting you complete protection throughout the day, no matter what difficulty it is. Imagine if we were in a deal, negotiating, and all we have to do is perform 2 rakats of salah, which grants us a bodyguard. Not a bodyguard for only physical difficulties, rather, this bodyguard helps us with every difficulty we have, whether it be at home, whether it be at the business, whether it is in wealth. No matter what problems we have, 2 rakats of salah before Fajr grants us the ability to subside, for these difficulties to be subsided and to give ease upon us. Plus, not only to that there are many virtues to the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the messenger so that you may obtain mercy. Obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how do we obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We obey Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And how do we obey Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? By following the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And how do we bring the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam into our lives? By showing love to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let us all try and follow the sunnah through and through, because not only does it bring about peace in one's life, but rather it brings about discipline and manners, and beautifies one's character. Together with the sunnah being comprehensive, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed abundant beauty and wisdom in the sunnah. There is no aspect of the sunnah that is uncouth. Rather, it is the best and superior way of doing anything. Sheikh Muhammad Rashid Rida, a famous Egyptian scholar, visited Deoband and had breakfast with Maulana Shah Anwar Shah Kashmiri rahimahullah. Where some sweetmeats were served for breakfast, Sheikh Muhammad Rashid Rida was eating with a spoon. And he seen Maulana Anwar Shah Kashmiri rahimahullah eating with his hands. However, he offered a spoon to Maulana Shah Kashmiri and he refused, saying that the natural spoon is better than this spoon for several reasons. Inshallah, I'll touch on 3. Firstly, it has the ability to contract and expand, which the spoon does not have. You can create things with your hands, you cannot create things with a spoon. Secondly, it is sensory perception. It can perceive how hot the food is. We do not want to put extremely hot food into our mouth, which then burns our taste buds. We do not enjoy our food. However, when we're eating with our hands, we can measure the temperature of the food, whether our mouth will like it or not, whether we are able to eat it, whether we are able to put it down or not. Thirdly, it is compatible with the mouth. It does not harm your mouth when you put it in. It is easy to use and it is easy to maneuver. Inshallah, there are many more benefits of eating with the hands. If one is not comfortable with it, neither is he does not find any enjoyment in licking the spoon. However, you find barakat when you lick your fingers and you feel happy when you're eating. Because this is the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, my dear brothers. At times we may replace the sunnah way or some other way, not realizing that we're replacing the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with something which is man-made. And thus, that is prone to deficiencies and failure. On the contrary, the sunnah way is divinely endorsed, hence it will never be deficient nor fail. All that is in need is to recognize its beauty and superiority and to practice upon it. The Mubarak way of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the real path to success. Imam Malik rahimahullah described the sunnah as the ark of Nuh alayhi salam. Why? The one who jumps upon it, he will be saved. And the one who deserts from it, he will drown. Simple, my dear brothers. We have to take the sunnah into every aspect of our lives. No matter what are we doing, into our business, into our homes, everywhere we go, we have to bring in the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And how we have to bring, and that will bring the love of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam into our heart. Another way of bringing the love of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam into our hearts is by reciting abundant durood sharif. It comes in hadith by Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. He says that inna awla an-nasi bi yawm al-qiyamah aktharuhum alayhi as-salah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam narrates that those who are nearest to me on the day of Qiyamah are those who invoke me with many blessings and salutations. And when better to do it, my dear brothers, today is the day of Friday. It comes in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confers blessing upon the Prophet Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And his angels ask him to do so. Oh, you who believe, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless upon him and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant upon him peace. It comes in hadith that Aus bin Aus radiallahu anhu narrates, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the most superior of your days is Friday. Why? Adam alayhi salam was born on a Friday. The trumpet will be blown on the Friday. Everyone will fall unconscious on the day of Friday. And therefore, you should recite abundant salutations to me on this day. Surely your salutations are presented before me. But how is it presented before Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? The companions radiallahu anhu asked, O Nabi of Allah, if we send salutations upon you and yet you are still deceased from us. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replied, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited the earth from eating the bodies of the Prophet alayhi salam. Abu Darda radiallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, send abundant salutations to me on Friday. Surely this is the day that is witnessed by many angels. Yes, Nabi and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made specific angels for the day of Friday. Why? These specific angels' job is to collect the durood sharif of every person and to present it to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The angel comes, he picks up the durood sharif, he goes to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and he says, O Nabi of Allah, so and so gave salams. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself personally replies to that salam. What an honor, my dear brothers. One cannot be honored anymore. And the more you make durood sharif, the more it will be presented to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the more it's presented to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the closer we become to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It comes in hadith that the person who recites 1,000 durood on the day of Friday, then he will see his place in Jannah before he passes away. Meaning that on his deathbed, he will see his place in Jannah. Every Friday, 1,000 durood sharif, inshallah. However, durood sharif is extremely and beneficial and virtuous on the day of Friday, but not only on Friday. Why confine ourselves when we can do it in our daily lives? It comes in hadith by Abdullah bin Amr radiallahu anhu. The person who sends one salutation to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his angels send 70 salutations upon him. Just one durood sharif, my dear brothers. One durood sharif equals 70 angels making dua for him. And when a person goes through difficulties and harms in his life, what he can do to subside his harm, to subside these difficulties is, he recites profusely and he recites abundant durood sharif. Inshallah, with reciting durood sharif, it will remove all our harms and all our difficulties. It comes in narration that Anas radiallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, He who sends one salutation to me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends 10 salutations to him. And he who sends 10 salutations to me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends 100 salutations to me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then writes for him freedom from hypocrisy and freedom from the hellfire on his forehead. 1 equals 10, 10 equals 100, 100 equals free from hypocrisy, which will then enter us into Jannah and not even touch the fire of Jahannam. There's many more hadith and many more virtues. Inshallah, let us all try and bring this into our daily lives. And many more, inshallah, let us all try and recite abundant Durood Sharif. Is it to bring the love of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And through gaining the love of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we will also love the Sunnah. In every action of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there is beauty and benefit. Sunnah is so that today we may practice upon it, and we might leave it the next day or so. But today I leave you with one Sunnah that is extremely loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is consistency. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was consistent in every action that he did, in obeying the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Example, if a person reads Salah one day, then he skips Salah the next day, then he reads Salah on his third day. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was not like that. And his sunnah was he read Salah, no matter what Salah, Nafil Nawaz, he read it the first day up to the last day. And that is consistency. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves consistency. Inshallah, let us all try and bring consistency into our hearts and into our daily lives. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the perfect role model. No matter what we do, no matter who we are, no matter what background we come from, Sunnah covers every part of the life. It comes in Quran. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. There is indeed a good model for you in the message of Allah. The one who has hope in Allah Ta'ala in the last day and remembers Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala abundantly. And through following Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, my dear brothers, we will gain our final desire and our final result, which is Jannah. And also through that, our reckoning will go easy. And not only our reckoning, but rather our trials in the grave will go extremely well and no harm and no difficulty. Inshallah, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala grant us the highest stages of Jannah and grant us the ability to complete and bring into our lives all of the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and keep us steadfast upon it. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله